Hello friends, welcome here. My name is O-Sheena. I am so excited to share all of my favorite books that I read in 2023. This is one of my favorite videos to do because I just love talking about the books that I love. So I can't wait to share these. I'm going to write all of these books down below. I'm going to link their Amazon link as well if you want to check them out on Amazon. And then any corresponding videos that I either did like a review vlog for, or I won't put the wrap-ups in because that would be a lot, but any specific videos that might correspond to these books, I'll put them down below. So if you want to see more, and I won't talk too much about what these books are about, but I'm going to talk about why I loved them. So if you want to know more about what they're about, you can check the extra videos. But yeah, I'm just going to talk about the key points of why I love these books. There is a mix of Christian fiction and secular fiction, mostly romance here, but I will specify the genre and I'll tell you if they're clean or not, and we will go from there. So I'm going to start with the Christian fiction first, and then I'll do secular fiction after. And these are not ranked or anything because they're so good. I cannot rank them, okay? So what do I even talk about first? Okay. Okay. Dear Henry Love Edith by Becca Kinzer. This book, okay, I loved this book. I read it in one day, which truly, I never do that because first of all, I don't have time. And second of all, it was a physical book, but I spent hours just sitting. I was cat sitting when I was reading this book. And so I was hanging out with the cat and I was reading this book and I was so thoroughly entertained. This is like a full-on Christian rom-com and it was hilarious, okay? I think I really enjoy humor in books. Most people do, but it just makes the romance even better when there's humor. There was a little bit of witty banter. It's these two characters speaking through letters because they're actually living in the same house, just in different rooms, but they don't know who each other is because they have never met. They think each other is elderly. And so they just are like, oh yeah, sure, whatever. I loved everything about this book. The small town, the townspeople, and then the actual characters themselves, the romance, the conflict that was there. I loved it. And then at the end, it kind of takes a turn into a more deeper, kind of bigger plot, if that makes sense, without spoiling it. And I really liked that part. It made it unique, and I liked where it went in the end. And yeah, I just absolutely love this book. For sure a top favorite and a favorite of all time. And just the romance was so good. So what a way to start. But yeah, this definitely, if I was ranking, this would be pretty close to the top. But another one very close to the top is Autumn by the Sea by Melissa Teague. This trilogy, this is a start of a trilogy. It has been hyped to me so much throughout the years on my channel, and I was like, I feel like I had never heard of Melissa Teague before this trilogy, and so I just kind of thought maybe she wasn't that good of an author. But this book, okay, the romance stands out so much, as well as the characters and the setting. So this is set in Maine and it's on a farm, but also there's water, and just it was a very coastal, cozy kind of setting. And then the romance, the way these characters communicated with each other, they definitely were skeptical of each other at first, but the way their friendship grew, and just I just love it when in particular the guy is just very intrigued by the girl and just wants to figure her out and wants to, take her through different things that he does and share his world with her. I just think that's adorable. I love reading that. And so this also had a bit of a fish out of water type of trope, which is one of my favorites as well, especially when it's the girl who's the fish out of water, where she was in this new place and she didn't know anyone. She was trying to figure out her family history and what's going on with that. And then she's also getting to know this guy. I loved it. I thought every scene was so intentional and really well done. So I'm so excited to keep reading this trilogy. But yeah, this super stands out. I loved this book too. I read this very quickly as well, and that just shows how much I loved it. Okay, another super standout book is Dangerous Beauty by Melissa Coslin. This was such a surprise to me. The cover didn't intrigue me much, so I was like, but when I heard what it was about, I was like, okay, this could be really good, hopefully, if it's done well. And I thought it was done well, because this is basically about human trafficking, and you follow one of the girls from Mexico who has been trafficked into the US, and it's a very close, or what do you call it? you like basically are in her head most of the time. So it's not like kind of a grand type of story. You're really following her day to day, which I loved. I really like character focused stories that have an interesting plot in the background. But for me, it was getting to know this character, and then her romance with the guy who saves her was so epic. I was captivated by these characters. I was so intrigued by both of them. They were very mysterious and interesting, and I thought that their actions and their thoughts and their words were just so interesting. I really found it like a very captivating story. The way that the plot progressed, like it is very much focused on human trafficking, so be aware of that, but I loved it. I thought it was really well done. And I mean, the romance though, like it was so good. And again, it's like where he definitely likes her, but he doesn't feel good enough for her. So he's trying to like put walls up and like protect her, but he also loves her. It's the best thing ever. And I really liked her character too. She was very endearing and someone like inspiring as well. So yes, loved it, loved the ending. There was like a little twist at the end that I didn't see coming because I don't read into these things. Maybe it was obvious, but like not to me. So yeah, I thought it was great. Definitely a favorite of the year and favorite of all time. Okay, if you want funny, A Noble Masquerade by Christiane Hunter. This came out of nowhere for me and I had no idea how funny it was going to be. And this is like a Regency romance, but it was done so well because it really was mostly about these characters and their relationships, and you follow kind of this family and each sibling has a book and has a romance. So this is the first one and it was just so funny. That was the main thing. I was giggling and laughing this whole time. Also highly recommend the audiobook because it was really well done in my opinion, and I enjoyed listening and reading at the same time. But then once I got closer to the end, I was like, I just have to read it fast. Like, come on, this is so funny. And yeah, really the romance, it was funny and I loved it. But then also book 2, which is called An Elegant Facade, follows one of the sisters. And what I loved about this book is there are scenes from A Noble Masquerade in this book, but in different characters' perspectives. And I love when authors do that. I just really love seeing in the heads of each of the characters in an interesting scene, in a scene where when I was reading this book that I was like, what are they thinking? Why did they say that? Or like, what are they doing right now? And then to see it in this book was so satisfying. So I super enjoyed that. And then the way the plot progressed, I really connected with the main character, which was surprising because I didn't like her that much in A Noble Masquerade, but she totally won me over in this book, surprisingly. So if you felt the same way, you might end up liking this book because first of all, the romance was so cute. And then I just came to really like this character. So it really worked for me. I would say this one, like, it was funny for sure. Not as funny as A Noble Masquerade. I think this is the funniest one. But everything else, I think with the character development and then the relationship progression, it still made it a 5-star and a favorite of the year. Then we come to Rachel Fordham. I actually read 3 of her books this year, but these are my 2 favorites. So I started with Where the Road Bends. And this, the romance and what it was about, like, I guess the storyline, really won me over. And I just feel like the way she writes her characters and the dynamic of the relationships just works for me. I really like how she portrays them. So this has a very similar vibe-ish to Redeeming Love in the sense there's like prostitution talked about in this book. So do be aware of that. But I thought it was so well done. And I just loved seeing this girl figure out her life, and it had a strong faith aspect, and then also the relationship, just the way these characters communicated and seeing their struggles, their inner struggles, was just so relatable. And I was just so on board with this. I really enjoyed it. It took me on a ride, and this like really centered around the romance, which is why I loved it so much. And I just was so impressed. So that was great. And then closer to the end of the year, I did read The Letter Tree by Rachel Fordham too. And seriously, the romance stands out so much in this one. Like, I think for me, the plot in Where the Road Bends lended itself really well to make the romance even better. Whereas with The Letter Tree, I could care less what the plot was. I loved these characters and their romance. Like, both of them, like the guy and the girl, absolutely loved them together. I thought they were perfectly paired. and then the little conflict that was like kind of keeping them apart made it like just this such like kind of Romeo and Juliet aching love, and it has such a good ending, and I just fell in love with the romance. So super impressed, loved this book, and yeah, so I became a fan of Rachel Portman this year, and I'm excited to keep reading her books. Okay, and lastly, I'm going to share The Love Script by Toni Shiloh. It just stands out so much because the faith aspect was incredible. And to see it done so well, in my opinion, in a contemporary setting, I was just so impressed, and I loved it for that. I would say that kind of the way their relationship was, or how it came to be, like, this was fake dating as realistic as possible fake dating can be, which is not realistic in my opinion. So it was like a little bit where you had to kind of get over that part of it for me. But truly the faith aspect makes this a 5-star, makes it a favorite of all time, because I was just so impressed with the way she wove it into the story. It didn't feel forced, but it is there a lot. And I just thought it was great. And then the romance is really sweet. Like the characters still do, you know, have feelings. They notice each other, but it was done in like such a cute way, in my opinion. I just really enjoyed it. Once again, it's the faith that makes this even better. So yeah, it's a favorite for that reason. I wouldn't say that like the plot was that deep or like really that interesting, to be honest, but once again, the faith and the romance were the strongest parts for this. Okay, on to the secular books. I'm also very excited to talk about these books, and I'm just gonna get this one out of the way. This is Powerless by Lauren Roberts. I mean, I read some great secular fiction, but this has to be my favorite of the year, for sure. Do you also see this is a hardcover version? I may have got this version as well, because I tabbed my paperback perfectly great. Okay, I read this thing and I loved it. But then I was like, but I also want like a perfect copy. And you know what? I'm a grown adult woman. I can buy the same book twice, and that's okay. And I did it, okay? So now I have the hardcover version to like just read, I guess. And then if I want to just look up a quote, I can use this version. And I love it. So this is YA fantasy romance, and it's mostly romance. There is a plot, okay? And it is similar to the Hunger Games, where these characters go into trials and they have to like fight to win the trial. It's not fight to the death, and you don't have to die to lose or win, but there are trials where they're hurting each other. And so it is kind of gory, I will say that. And really though, the romantic banter, the lines that these characters say to each other, like it's the most stereotypical, epic, what every stereotypical girl wants to hear from a guy say to her. Every single line you can think of is in these books, okay? And I ate it up. I was here for it. I ate it up. And so I have a full video sharing about this book. And so I will link it down below if you want to see more. But if you don't like romance, don't read this. But if you like romance, get ready, okay? Just get ready. Okay, next. The Good Sister by Sally Hepworth. This year I discovered Sally Hepworth too. And I really was intrigued by the title, and knowing that it was like meant to be a thriller, I was like, oh, interesting. So I picked it up randomly and I couldn't put it down. I was immediately hooked. I fell in love with these characters and really what the story was about, because I've never read a book like this before. So you follow two sisters, and one of them has kind of a form of autism, pretty much. And you can tell by the way that it's written, it's like, okay, she's definitely on the spectrum. So there's chapters in her perspective, and then there's also chapters in her sister's perspective, but they're journal entries from the past, I guess. So you also get to see like what their upbringing was like. It was crazy. I wouldn't say this is thriller-ish. It's more so like family drama, I guess, but in the best way, okay? I just was completely mesmerized by this writing. It's also clean, so there was a touch of language, and they did talk about the bedroom, but there was nothing described in that way. And overall, like, it was like totally about this plot and these characters, and kind of seeing what the limits are to a sister relationship, to a mother-daughter relationship. And I could actually see myself reading this again, knowing what I know now. I feel like I could read into some of the journal entries more because I was fully convinced of things being a certain way, and I was so wrong. Like it tricked me completely. It completely got me. And I loved that. I thought it was so well done. So yeah, this was super standout. I did give The Soulmate by this author 5 stars as well, but I wouldn't say that it's a favorite of the year compared to this book. This book was just for sure my favorite, and I can't wait to keep reading from Sally Hepworth. There's plenty of books of hers that I haven't read yet, but this was an awesome start. Then The Friend Zone by Soraya Wilson. This was a sports romance, and it was great. It was really great. This is clean. I think there probably was some language, but I don't really remember. Sorry about that. But yeah, it is clean. They make out, that's it. But it's basically where this guy, he is a sports guy. He plays football, I think, and he needs a tutor for math. And so his tutor is the coach's daughter. And the coach's daughter is off limits. And so he is not allowed to date her. He's not allowed to like her at all. So that kind of makes it safe because they can just like be friends and she can tutor him and nothing can happen. But obviously they have feelings. But she likes a different guy and she asks him for help. Well, no, she asks the football guy for help to make this different guy like her. And so he's like doing some of that dating coaching thing. And it was so cute. And I mean, really, I found it funny. Like, I liked the characters. It didn't feel cheesy to me because I read some others from this author and they were cheesy and I did not like them. But this one I thought was really good and I would recommend it. And I really enjoyed it. So definitely a favorite. Okay, next, Everyone is Beautiful by Catherine Center. This book, I just thought it was beautiful, which is fitting. But basically you follow this mom who she's struggling in life. She's kind of in a midlife crisis, I guess you could say. And it's basically following her, figuring out how to love herself again, how to like find her identity other than being a mother. And then also in her marriage, you get to see some of that grow. And I just found myself relating to her so much, surprisingly, because nothing about her is similar to me, but the way she described her feelings, it just was like, oh, it's like she was real. And I just really enjoyed it. Like I felt like I was just there watching her life and one of her friends, and I really loved it. And so yeah, I would recommend it. It definitely was a favorite of the year. And I think this is a great example of how Catherine Center can write such relatable characters and talk about life situations in such a hopeful way that is just so beautiful to me. And so yeah, I really loved this. There is some language in here, and then they do talk about the bedroom, but there's no details, so it was clean in that sense. My last favorite book of the year is Nora Goes Off Script by Annabelle Monaghan? Monaghan? I think someone said the G is silent. I don't know. I never know how to say her last name. Now this book, it's a favorite of the year, but I think I gave it 4 stars, not 5. In my heart, it's 5. Because the story and the characters just won me over so well. But it isn't necessarily one that I would recommend, like, if you like Christian fiction, pretty much, because there's actually barely any language in here. There's mild language, but they do talk about the bedroom a lot, and you, like, know that they're doing it a lot, but there's no details in a way that made me feel uncomfortable, so take that for what you will. But basically it's like a celebrity romance as well, because this girl is a script writer for like basically Hallmarky movies, and then she writes a script about her failed marriage and it gets picked up for a movie. And so you follow the lead actor guy playing her husband. He comes to her house and like tries to get tips, and like they film it at her house too. So she meets him and he is just captivated by her right away. He loves her life and her kids. She has 2 kids, and their house, like it was a beautiful setting to read from. And then again, I felt like I was watching a movie. I felt like I was just here with these characters, and I was so interested in how this was going to work. And then truly, like I guess the twist, or like the major conflict was so heart-wrenching, but also I'm like, what happened? How did this happen? And I had to know. I had to know. And then seeing like, because we didn't have all the details. And so I'm like, well, this can't work then. So why am I reading this book? But tell me more, like, how is it going to end? And then I'm like, what? I thought, like, just, yeah, the way that the plot went, because it seems like to be happy lovey-dovey for like the first half, and then it takes a hard turn, and I'm like, what? And I think that's what made it great, because I was like so invested by that point. I had to keep reading and I had to know. And it just stands out a lot for that. And I thought it was a great romance. I really loved it. So yeah, I mean, I overlooked pretty much everything that I don't usually like in books, like the mild little bit of language that was there, and then they talk about the bedroom like a lot. So yeah, but there were no details, so that's why I was able to read it, and I still thought the story was pretty good. So yeah, it is a favorite of the year. I think about this book like fairly often, of like, this just felt so random, but I actually like really liked it. And then this is a really cute book. Like, isn't it adorable? I love the cover, love the spine, so I'm happy to have it. Alrighty, those are all my favorite books from 2023. So even though it's not a lot, I can talk long about these books. And so thank you for listening. I will write all of them down below. And yeah, hopefully you have some recommendations here. You can learn more about what my taste is. I'm really looking forward to finding more favorite books in 2024. I'm really focusing on just picking up books that I think I will like, not that I'm not sure about. No more not sure about these books kind of reading. I'm going to read books that I think I will like. So hopefully I'll have way more favorites in 2024, but we shall see. So thank you for watching this video, you guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you for being with me. I will see you in my next video. Like, mistaken identity and like okay. Oh, and Happy New Year, because this is the last video of 2023 on this channel. So thank you for being here with me on my channel, and thank you for watching all my videos. And yeah, see you in the new year, you guys.